snacks that were presented.
numerous times, but Mr. Teague is very sad that he is not here because he was very excited about this writer's story. Yeah, celebration for the children. They have worked hard on this. So you all can say hello to Mr. Teague in a minute. You'll all wave to him. But he is homesick today. So he was here. Okay, please come in. Writers, you'll have 3 minutes to read, which means 2 minutes, and then at 3 minutes, hands will go up, which minute break and have the list the kids do though, but we'll get there, don't worry. So who is first? Fauzi? Come on. Oh, thank you, you're awesome.
Hi, my name is Fauzi, and today I'm going to be talking about the story of The Jump. So basically, my story is there was this kid called Bob, and it was the end of school year, and it was coming to summer. Going to go for summer break. His parents were going to surprise him, and they said that he was going to go to China, and he was going to go to the world's highest bungee jumping place, and he's never been bungee jumping. So he was really scared to go. And when he arrived in China, he saw his friend go, and he was kind of relieved that nothing happened to him, so he eased off a bit. But like the day before that, he didn't get any sleep because he was too scared and everything. And he finally, his parents encouraged him and pushed him off the tower, and he fell and bungee jumped finally, and he finally did something that he's been wanting to do, but he feared for his whole life. So I'm gonna read a part of my story, not from the beginning, like from the second paragraph on to like later on in the story. So, Mom, where are we going? Bob questioned. I'll tell you in the cab. Now get yourself changed and ready to go to the airport. Bob went up to his room and quickly packed his stuff and went down. Okay, we're set, Bob's mom said excitedly. Let's go. As they got in the taxi, Bob's mom told Bob that they were going to Macau, China. She said that they were going to the world's tallest bungee jumping area in the world. At this point, Bob was getting scared. He knew that he had a chance of backing out, and he was very frightened. One day later, he was touring all around Macau, and while he was at it, he saw people jump off the Macau Tower. He was so scared of just watching the people jump that he peed his pants for them. While he was watching them jump off, he noticed someone familiar that was bungee jumping. It was Jack. He ran to him, shouting, "Jack, it's Bob." As Bob was running to Jack, he noticed that he twisted his ankle. Bob was frightened to go bungee jumping tomorrow. How was it, Jack? Bob asked in a frightened way. It kind of hurt, but you'll be fine, Jack said. At this moment, Bob was getting quite scared because he thinks he's going to get majorly hurt on the jump. Bob took his mind off the bungee jump and focused more on the touring when he was doing. He's not too scared now that he knew that his friend did the jump, and now he knows that he is not going to crash and die. Bob went back to touring around Macau. He realized that when you're going bungee jumping, you have the option to do it with an elder. Now this got Bob thinking. He could possibly do it with his dad. It was about time for him to go back to the hotel and ease up for a big day tomorrow. He couldn't fall asleep because of his brain just thinking about so many bad case scenarios from the bungee jump tomorrow. Wake up, sleepyhead, Bob's mom stammered. We need to start up early. Bob woke up with absolutely no sleep because the fear he was going to go through his mind last night. As he got out of bed, he just felt like quitting on his mom and ruining the whole break just for a small fear that can be easily faced. That's just part of my story, and there's a little bit more.
Were you scared?
Boys and girls, when you go up there, get a little close to the microphone so that they can hear you when it's being recorded.
Yes, it's being live streamed, so Mr. Teague is actually currently watching you, FYI. Maybe he's even timing from his house, I don't know. Just keep your eye contact every now and again. You would see my hands when I do Elizabeth, this or this. You just, so every now and again, just sort of glance. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Of course, anyone can come. Of course.
So my story is about a girl who gets diagnosed with cancer, and it's basically about how she deals with it and how she doesn't let it slow her down in her dreams of life. So I'm going to read the beginning and then talk a little bit more about the rest if I have time. So I have some bad news, the doctor said slowly to Jenny. The doctor was pale, tall, and very thin. He was middle-aged and obviously balding. Jenny looked around the small doctor's office as she listened to Dr. Friedman. There was a small counter on the opposite of where she was sitting, where Dr. Friedman leaned against. There was a large closed window in the back of the room. Jenny desired to open the window to air out the strong smell of antiseptic that was giving her a throbbing headache. The long, over-padded bench that Jenny sat on felt like an island, and the glossy tile floor was a churning ocean. Her eyes finally fell upon a small painting hanging next to the large window. The painting contained several young children playing, laughing, and having a great time with their families. She didn't know why she loved the painting so much, but she couldn't stop staring at the vibrant colors and the magical brushstrokes. She started to braid her lengthy, straight auburn hair to make her look more like one of the children in the painting. After my research, Dr. Friedman spoke slowly and carefully, almost as if he was scared of what Jenny's reaction might be. I can now tell that you have developed a brain tumor, and it's growing very quickly. He sighed heavily and then continued, and well, I've never seen someone survive such a large tumor before. He let his words sink in. Jenny stopped gazing at the painting and braiding her hair immediately and turned all of her attention to Dr. Friedman. That's impossible, she said, almost as if it were a question. Behind her words, there was some sort of choked laughter, like it had been a joke. Her voice was normally gentle and smooth, but now her voice had so much fear behind it that it quivered, and even though she tried, there was no way to keep her voice calm. You could hardly even tell that she had ever had a soft voice. 1,000 thoughts were soaring through her head. She was trying to detect any sign that would indicate that what the doctor had just said had been a joke. Then she realized that not a single part of what the doctor had said had been a joke. Jennifer, the doctor said, denial is very common in true. You mean that I'm going to die here, in a small town in France with no friends or family? Jenny said to herself, and even though she knew that not a single word of what the doctor had said had been a joke, her voice still had a muffled laughter behind it, and she didn't know why. The denial melted away suddenly, leaving behind... Oh, okay. So, sorry, I didn't have enough time to finish, but the rest of the story is basically just her not letting the disease slow her down. Okay. Any questions?
How far were you from finishing?
Like 2 pages and a half of the beginning.
Would anyone like to ask questions or have anything they want to ask?
Okay. No.
She doesn't. Does she?
Yes.
Oh. I'm sad. Very good, honey. Good job.
So originally my story was gonna be a horror story, but then as I was writing it, I realized that it wasn't scary at all. And so I changed it from being a horror story to it being a mystery story. And so the summary of my book is a young boy goes off to college and he faces hard times because he's not finding any friends. And then a challenge comes up for him and he has to find the culprit, otherwise, he'll forever be known as crazy. And so I'm not going to start from chapter 1, I'm going to go to chapter 2 and start from the story. So I walked into the receptionist and asked for my classes in my dorm room. Just take the elevator to the third floor. Then you're in room 312, the receptionist said. Thanks, I replied. Hopefully I can meet you again. I smiled and then walked away. I went in the elevator and opened room 312 with the key she gave me. It seemed like my roommate had not arrived, but the place seemed really nice and neat. I moved my stuff to the right bed and went downstairs to get the boxes that I left in the car. As I went down, I was greeted by after-school activity leaders. I kindly nodded and said no to all the activities. As I went down to the van, I grabbed the biggest box in the van and then put it to the ground right next to me. It looked like a boxy snowman. I then turned and put the final box on top and closed the trunk door. As I closed the door, I turned to the right and grabbed the boxes. Just then, in the corner of my eye, I saw a girl with long flowing brown hair and midnight black eyes. She looked up from her phone and looked in my directions. I dropped the box. I heard something break, and then I realized I was staring at her. I quickly ran into my room and threw a pillow on my face. I sat on my bed thinking about what a fool I made and what a first impression I had made with this person. I heard a faint knock on the dorm room door, and I thought it was my roommate, so I opened it, but it was the girl from downstairs. I was shocked to see her, and half of me wanted to close the door. She smiled and said, "Hi. You left downstairs were boxes that had your name on it. So I asked the receptionist what room you were, and I found you." I smiled and replied, "Thanks. I guess I owe you one." She smiled and turned around and went to the elevator, but then out of the blue, she asked me, "Hey, I'm assuming you're new from the boxes. Do you want me to show you around campus?" I replied, "Yeah, that would be great," and closed my door, thinking that this might actually be a good school year. So I'm gonna in chapter 3 he meets the person, and the challenge comes up, and then I wanted to go to the 5th chapter where he finds or where he's finding out the culprit. And so I opened my eyes to see a blinding light. I pulled my arm over my face to block the sun. My eyes slowly started making out a picture. I was in the bed by myself, not in school or a hotel. I dragged my feet off the bed, but I didn't know whose they were. I pulled myself out of the bed, but it was the person who showed me around. She smiled and asked me if I was okay. I told her about my injuries, and then I felt like a fool because I never asked her what her name was. She giggled and told me her name was Mary. I heard another set of steps, and it was the doctor. He told me to lay back down, and then soon he would help me. After a few hours, I woke up feeling better. The doctor gave me clearance to leave, and I thought I would go back to school and see what I had missed. Everyone was glad to see me. I was all right. Then in the corner of my eye, I saw the person in my room that night who ran away. The person who I thought was responsible for me going to the hospital. I nudged someone over and ran at him. He was in shock for a second, then ran. People started to look at me and him until he ran outside. I tackled him on the floor and yelled at everybody to come here. And so that's about the end of my story. There's one more chapter, but that's all I have time for.
Anyone have any questions? Anything you'd like to ask? It's hard to put all of that in such a short amount of time, isn't it? You guys are doing wonderful. Who's next? I don't know. I don't have it. Kids, come on. I need your help. Actually, do me a favor, Fauzi, put the list up and make sure you can keep track. Isn't it? Thank you, baby. With someone who is already gone, that's the only reason why I asked you. Yes, it's okay. It's okay, because what's going to happen, all the parents' phones will go off. Thank you very much. No, the children can assist
Okay.
us. So,
Whoa. I don't know how to miss this. Okay, so my story is about a young girl and how she loses her family and forgets about them, but then meets them without realizing it in a different situation. So I'll start with the first paragraph of my story, which is actually from the middle of the story, which you'll see like how it fits in later. So it starts with a young girl stood before her demise. Her innocent blue eyes yearned for escape as she clutched on to whatever hope remained. Her body thrashed wildly. Exhausted, she collapsed, allowing past memories to float back into her consciousness. She looked down at the blood-stained tiles and silently wept, repeating the once sacred words her mother had repeated to her before her time came. And now this is like from her past. So now that's from the future. Now we're talking about her past and how she got into the situation that she was in. So this is from her brother's perspective. Mom clutched me and Sarah tightly, our little premature bodies hanging onto her shawl. I could hear the deafening cry of wounded soldiers and gunshots from off in the distance. Sarah squirmed and started to whimper. Mom stopped and reluctantly took to the north, towards the mangroves and the soon-to-be setting sun. She took a detour around the mud brick wall and arrived at Uncle's brick cot. Uncle understood the whole situation from the look in Mom's eyes as she handed me and Sarah into his custody. She gave Sarah her necklace and me a paper crane, and left towards the battle cries. So that was from her brother's perspective. And now, as you now know, the girl from the first paragraph's name is Sarah. And then they're now in the custody of her uncle. What day is it? The brakes churned. We halted to a stop and the doors opened. The blinding sunlight awakened my senses. Sarah held on to me tightly, her minuscule fists clutching onto my shirt. She awakened. Uncle smiled at us. We were in Turkey. We could see Uncle had gotten over the 10-day journey. The food we had packed had been starving himself to allow us to eat measly pieces of bread wrapped in one of Mom's shawls. I stepped out. The sun's piercing rays combined with the cool breeze from the west made for the perfect weather. We walked through the market of a neighboring town and went to meet one of Uncle's friends. He had jet black hair, yet a graying beard, and had a mischievous grin. Uncle seemed in a hurry as he spoke with the new acquaintance. They spoke with hushed voices. Then there seemed to be an exchange between them. He whispered something to an unhappy man, then came to us. He said, "No matter what, always stick together. I won't be back for a while. I have to get a job and earn some money." Now, the brother's name is Aziz, and this is from the girl from the first paragraph's perspective, Sarah. Do I not have any time left? Or I forgot the signals.
This means start wrapping up.
All right.
It's okay, baby.
Okay, so since I don't have much time left, I'll just tell you that their uncle dies. Yes, sad story. And then they become slaves, and then they meet each other in a slave camp. It's not really a bad slave camp. They're just forced to do labor. And then they become friends without even realizing they're relatives. And then they find a way to escape, and then euphoria is basically from there.
Mona, you're next, baby. Did anyone have any questions for him, or he filled it in for us, didn't he? Come on, beautiful, you got this.
So I have a pretty I'm Mona, and I have a pretty short story. So I'm gonna read it all, and if you don't understand any terms, just let me know. Okay. Faster. I needed bigger strides, a powerful rhythm. I pushed him into a canter once again, beginning the course for the second time. And if anyone doesn't know, this is about horses, so if it sounds weird, just know it's about horses. Heels down, long legs, steady hands, head up, and follow the horse's movement. We approached the first jump, and it was like the entire world disappeared, and all that mattered was the thousands of pounds of muscle beneath me. Support with the leg, find the stride, and move as one with the horse.
I could feel adrenaline burn through our bodies as I waited for takeoff. The first jump only 3 strides away. Zunoflair's head now high, without a single sense of me on top of him, was one. We finished the course shortly after. He held my ears. I led him back to his box and fed him his daily carrots. I gave him a final pat and whispered to him to take care of himself. Competition day was in less than 48 hours. I headed home and waited till tomorrow arrived. 24 hours. 24 hours I will be in the stables. 22 hours I'll be competing. 20 hours, who knows. I rose early and made my way to the stables. Zuno had to be worked before competition day or else he'd be too fresh. He was a big and bulky horse, but all his stored energy made up for his build shape. I tacked him up and we headed to the academy arena. We didn't work too long. He didn't need more practice as he was already doing what was asked of him. I hosed him down, his coat in the blue sky, collaging into the most beautiful artwork that could ever be displayed in front of my eyes. I once again fed Zunoflair his well-deserved carrots and made my way home. 4 hours. 4 hours I had to be in the stables. 3 hours the horses would be loaded and we'd all head to the federation. Competition day was at the peak of starting. The horses began their journey to the federation and we arrived after the trailer shortly after. I waited until my trainer Muhammad arrived. As soon as he did, we got to walking the course right away. I went over the course countless times in my head before starting my warm-up with Zuno. Before I could even process it, entering the arena and the judges were announcing our names on the speakers. I trotted around the course, showing Zuno the jumps so he wouldn't shy away from them. But fence 5 and 3 didn't seem the most pleasant to him. I don't know if I was just blind to it or if my anxiousness was eating away at my conscience, but I didn't support Zuno enough to comfort him from his fearful obstacles. I began my canter toward the first jump, and it didn't take long for me to notice that my stride and rhythm were not harmonized. I pushed with my leg, but things were failing. Zuno didn't seem to understand my instructions, and I wasn't giving them out clearly either. Even though I wasn't supporting him the most, he still made sure to pick up his feet over the fences and keep his frail rider safe. As I approached fence 3, I could feel him hesitate, and it wasn't long before he refused. I circled around and approached once more, this time jumping over it, but without a single sense of success or satisfaction, because I knew Zuno had jumped alone and I wasn't there with him. We continued on fence 5, and this time Zuno couldn't go on without the support I had to provide to him earlier. He refused again, and this time he couldn't control his fear. Sat up. I didn't move for a moment. And sat there up and looking at Zunoflair. I knew it wasn't his mistake, and even though Zuno well enough knew that too, he forgave me in a heartbeat and made sure to prick his ears up and stand over me when I got up. I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't long before someone rushed over and gave me a leg up back onto Zuno. I could hear the judges above wishing me wellness and recovery from the speakers above. We headed back to the gateway of the arena, and I made my way back to the warm-up arena. I cooled Zuno off and handed him to a groom. I'm almost done. As me and my mom were headed back to the seating area, my trainer approached me with a great face. You know, I'm happy this happened. It has taught you an important lesson that will stay with you forever. I grinned back because with each fall, my knowledge within this lesson was expanding every time. I was happy too. I always knew that flying came with falling and sometimes, but I guess truly understanding how important it is always takes a little longer.
So is that an experience you've had yourself, by any chance? Aiden? Children just try to glance up, be awesome. I know it's hard when you're in your brain, but then we'll all have time.
Story is called Blasting. It's a band and well known around the town. also going on a world tour, not world country, cross country tour in just one day. And I'm going to a part of my story. It's chapter 8 out of 10. He left, but the guys were starting to miss his pranks. As the boys their new tunes, the music felt a little bit, but sounded good. The crowd cheered, so the band came back with wasn't coming back. Jackson used his computer for audition. The Facebook post over 1,000 likes, so the band extremely motivated to get to Houston, Texas. And what my story basically is about the troubles that the band is facing when they first start out on the tour, how some of them are getting mixed feelings about certain things. Yeah.
Take 2 seconds. Any parents, if you'd like to get coffee, you can have coffee. No, are you okay? Fine. You want to just carry on? That's doing great. Remember, son? Your voice is right. Children who have already gone, this is still your chance to pay attention to those who are going. It's not fair to them. So let's all stay focused, please.
Hello, my name is based in North and then it spreads to farm town that has a little and it affects students at the school little town and it's about them trying to get through the zombie apocalypse that started in this base. So it was peaceful back then when there were no zombies, but before the apocalypse, before zombies roamed the earth. Now it's just chaos, burned down buildings, and zombies everywhere. This hero goes. It all started in an army base in Dakota, Washington. Corporal Jacobs, status report. How are the test subjects? Well, sorry, Commander, but one of them escaped. What? Yes, sir. Lock down all the roads immediately, command Corporal Haynes. Corporal Jacob, also get a helicopter. We need to get out of here fast. Crispin, Illinois, 2 days later. Derek Craig just got on the bus. Then he went and sat with Carls. Hey, what's up, Carls? Nothing much. Did the Cardinals win the game, Derek? They were down by 3, but it was still a good game. Bam. Derek, get up. What happened? Is everyone okay? Yeah, I'm fine, said Linz. Eli, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, we got to get out of here, guys. I have seen movies when buses explode right after they tip over. They escape out of the back door on the street. Linz, Carls, Eli, Derek, and Cole. Then, bam, Derek was right. Derek and the rest of the gang run to school but encounter something strange. Ew, what is that? Why is it eating Mrs. Riggin? Ew. Run, yells Mrs. Riggin. The gang tried to see the doors locked. No one in the halls. They pass the gym, but it's boarded up and chained. They keep going and still nobody around. They pass the 6th grade room, nobody. They keep going until they get to the 7th grade room. Mrs. Sluter, Cameron, and Blake and Hope were inside, no one else. They gang all ask at once what happened. So that was just like the beginning of my story, so I'm gonna end it there.
I know what happened. You actually went, okay, I think some of you forgot. 1 hand just means you have a minute left, okay? 2 means dies, and you really have me intrigued. Are any of you parents intrigued with that story?
Everybody.
Does everyone die?
No,
What happens?
I don't know.
What? It's your story. Is there a happy ending or a sad?
He means we have to read to find out.
Ah.
Yeah.
Is there someone come up with a cure or to kill the zombies? Come on.
So there's gonna be book 2 maybe.
Oh, okay. So we have to wait for the sequel.
You
Excellent.
don't even know yourself.
Hey, that's very good. That's a cliffhanger, kind of. Who's next, please? So remember, I think we'll refresh that. One hand means you have a minute left. 2 means, okay, you can start wrapping it up, right? Beautiful? Go ahead.
So my name's Amali, and my story is about this girl named Sarah, and she's a very shy girl, and she has 2 friends who are in a way rebels. Their names are Cora and Mikey, and she gets stuck in in a way alternate universe where she has to fight her way out, and a lot of weird things happen. So this is the beginning. So it was almost midnight on a Friday. Mikey and Cora and Sarah were to camp out at a school until morning. Mikey had dared all Sarah out of his bed and Sarah adjusting her earmuffs. Mikey put the wire in the keyhole and kept on shaking it. Click. Mikey opened it, heading inside. Guys, there's no one in here. Come on. He ran inside, Cora trailing behind him. Sarah a bit hesitant. She looked around and ran back behind her. Sarah's place is a very loud social place. She had never been here when it was empty. The only light illuminating was from the street lamps outside. As she got deeper inside the school, the darker it got. Where are the lights now? Mikey said to himself as he touched the walls looking for a switch. Sarah heard a click, and one by one the big ceiling lights lit up. Mikey went up to Sarah and startled her a bit. Well, what do we do now? Sarah said softly. Whatever we want to do. No one's here to stop us. Mike said. Mike. Sarah looked around confused on what she wanted to do. She never really did these things. It was weird how a sensitive, calm girl was hanging out with the class clowns and the rebels of the school. Boo! Cora shouted, making Sarah jump. Cora! Shouted Sarah. She tried to catch her breath. Don't do that. Come on, Sarah. You're such a buzzkill, Cora said, while punching Sarah against the shoulder. Cora ran off. Sarah took a small steps, watching out for the teachers. I mean, come on, Sarah. Why would there be any teachers this late at night? She went around the school, regretting not chickening out on the dare. She found Mikey in the teacher's lounge stealing chocolate from the vending machine, and Cora looked at the test answers in the math drawers, copying them onto a very piece of paper she had in her backpack. Sarah went into the girls' bathroom looking for her phone. She didn't want any part of this dare. She hadn't realized how much time she'd spent there. Only that her phone batteries. Now it was 11:59, almost midnight. Necklaces, friendship necklaces. I know it's cheesy. We have to tangle the ends together of the strings. I have to pull them with force. And we all have to. If we don't do something bad can happen. By one, they all pulled. Sarah opened her eyes, and they all put their necklaces around their necks. Now we'll be buddies forever, Mikey said in a baby voice. Cora glared at him. Sarah began to doze off, only wanting this experience to end. What they did tonight could get them in a lot of trouble. So that was the end, and the rest is they did something like they get stuck in this place where a lot of bad things happen and they don't know why it's happening. So they're trying to get out of this place, but not a lot of things go their way, and they're trying to have hope.
Hi, my name is Maha, and my story is about a girl who has to have a blood transfusion done, and this is based on real life since it actually happened to me. And I'm just going to read from the middle to the end of the story. I sat down on the examination table, and the doctor came in. My dad told him everything. The way he looked at me was so sorrow, as though there was no hope for me in getting better. I kept saying, "Would you stop staring at me?" But I just said that in my head so no one could hear me. "We have to do an x-ray and a blood test to see what her levels are. Then we'll make a complete decision of what will happen next." So we went, and my body was shaking. The room was so cold, I went rigid. We came out, and the doctor was standing there waiting for us. He then asked me to look up, and I looked up. He pulled down my eyelids to see what color they were, and I didn't know what he was doing, but I didn't ask. I didn't understand, but I did it anyway. Then he shook his head as if saying a no, and that made me lose my hope. We moved into a ward. It wasn't just any ward. It was a ward. The background color was yellow, but it was mustard yellow, and I hate mustard. It was disgusting. On the right was a glucose strip, and on the left was a sofa, but there was no point of it because I would not be sitting there. They said they had to take out some blood, and I didn't allow that. I started screaming and shaking, making it harder for them and scarier for me. They didn't even know how to. Half of it was on my hand, and half of it was on the bed. It was dripping everywhere. It was like I had been in a serious car crash and had got smacked in the face, and now it was like I was bleeding to death. Finally, they removed the needle and then said we will have to do it again. Then they left me on my own and gave me a little time to calm down myself. My mom said, "Sweetie, if you move, this will be done in no time, and it will hurt only a little bit." I knew my mom wanted to get over with this, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't have much time to make a decision because by then the nurses had come back again. The first time they had failed, I wondered if they would fail again. They were going to put the needle, and right when I started whining, the nurse hid the needle behind her back. I said, "Come on, nurse, I'm not actually that dumb." But I said that in my head so nobody would hear me. She then brought the needle closer and closer, and I screamed even though it didn't touch me yet. She poked it in me, and I screamed so loud that it could have woken up the whole emergency center. She was a little more successful because for once the blood wasn't dripping all over me. But then she put the glucose tube in, and my hand formed into a big large bubble. I yelped. Then she took it out, and when she said and I shrieked. She then said we have to do it again. So the end of the story is just that she does it again, and she becomes successful, and then they take her to the hospital and they do it. It changes her life.
It actually happened, really? Wow. Very vivid. Good job.
Okay, so my story, first I'm just gonna talk a little bit about it, then I'm gonna read it, some of it. Okay, so it's about this boy who changes schools to this place that's rumored to be haunted and stuff. So, and he's really sad about it, but he makes two friends, and they go on an adventure. Okay, so the first two paragraphs are really just how he fits in and stuff. That's just boring, so I'm just gonna read from this one. At school the next day, they were just walking around while Ben had to stop at the principal's office to pick up something. Right outside, while he was waiting with Charlotte and Matthew, his friends, he leaned on a painting, and the next thing he knew, the floor had collapsed from under him and his friends' feet, and they fell 10 meters down. Luckily, no one got badly hurt. When they stood up, they all said, "Whoa," at the same time, because of what they had just seen. It was a dark place with pictures of kids that used to be in that school. When like Matthew's, wait, did I explain that like it was rumored to be haunted and stuff? Yeah. Okay. So there were pictures of some kids that used to be like kidnapped, that were kidnapped before. And one of these kids, Matthew, he was a part of the school newspaper, and he like noticed them because he wrote a story on them. So like Ben, the new kid, he asked him about it. And yeah, so they were all like really scared because they thought they were being kidnapped too. But what they realized is that they had to find a way to like try escape. So they decided to have a look around and see what's actually going on. He searched with his friends for half an hour, but they didn't seem to find anything until there were lights that blinded them, showing them a pathway. They were very hesitant in following the creepy path, but they realized it was their only option. As they walked upon the path, they saw lights behind every section they walked past went dim, almost like it was interactive, like someone was watching them. As soon as they reached the end, they saw a gap in the floor with an old bridge connecting the sides together. They were walking across the bridge when they heard a creak. "Oh no," said Charlotte, "we're gonna die." So they just ran until they were terrified that the bridge would collapse. As they crossed right on time, and they watched the bridge collapse behind them. Then they heard boo, and the next thing they knew, they woke up in a cell with 3 kids named John Bradford, Kelly Jackson, and Kennedy Jonesworth. And those were the kids that got kidnapped. Oh, okay, that's all I have time for, so wrap it up.
Right, so abruptly stop. This just means wrap it up.
Okay. Okay, well, the rest is like, just, they win, blah, blah. They escape and stuff. Yeah.
So are there real zombies in there? Or
No, it's actually the principal that kidnaps them.
Oh, so it's a twist.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be. But you can read about it also, you know.
Okay, we have to now. Well done. There you go, good job. Next. No, after Fauzi, come on. Whom? Molly. Smiley, let's go.
Okay, so my story is about a boy named Pat and his family going to a beach house during summer vacation. Pat isn't too happy about it. He seems kind of depressed that he's leaving his friends, except during his trip to the beach, he's noticing suspicious things, noticing animals being washed up on the beach that he's never seen before. He's been seeing it for days and days and weeks, and notices this tracking device that has a cracked screen, it's been broken. And then he's greeted by someone who tells him to get off the beach, standing at the bottom of a lighthouse. And he tells Pat to follow this creature in the water, and he shows dangerous. And they said this tracker prevented her from touching the water's surface, and ever to breach out into open air. And that means she'll be attack people. I'm gonna read the first paragraph, and it just talks about where the whole idea came from. She stood still and quiet over the house's windows and the cloak. The lighthouse was not like any other. It was actually used as a marine biology lab.
Scientists skittered about, some of them on computers, using satellites, and gazing out the windows at the murky, inky black ocean over a full moon, searching for anything that may cross its surface. Is the tracking device still reachable? One of them inquired. He stood taller than all the other scientists, his square glasses glinting off the lighthouse's beams. All emotions he seemed to have could have only consist of confusion and stress. Around him were beeping, flashing computers showing all sorts of data printed in blue. A slender woman sauntered over to him, clutching a clipboard in one hand. She also seemed concerned, maybe more than the man. "Sir," she began, "nobody has received any satellite contact with the tracking device. Maybe it was broken by accident." "Impossible. The tag was securely sealed to the beast," said the man. "We should send a patrol to the beach tomorrow morning, just in case it washed up. We could still reach the data, Dr. Hughes." "Fine," said the so-named Dr. Hughes. "We can only hope that the creature will not worry." But it explains how the rest of his family is a lot more happier than Pat.
How they form a relationship there or something. Good job. Huh?
He could have.
Yeah. Next.
I pushed open the door. It was opening slowly because it was heavy. I saw the floor of the kitchen, expecting there of water, but there wasn't. It was letting the blood drip down. Noah looked like he was about to faint, whereas I couldn't get a sound to come out of my mouth. My body started to shake and I couldn't think, and the image of the boy and the blood was stuck in my head. My vision was blurry and a huge pain struck through my head. I turned around and ran out of the kitchen with Addie and Noah behind me. I sat down and stared at a blank space. "Are you okay?" Noah asked me. I nodded. I never thought in my life I would have to see a dead body like that. "What was that?" Addie shouted. She had her hands in her hair and was breathing heavily. "Something is up here," Noah exclaimed. I rested my head against the wall and took a deep breath. Then I felt a liquid-like thing. Another drop landed on my hand. The liquid was thick. I looked at my hand to see dark, thick blood covered all over it. How was that possible? It was only 2 drops. I let a huge scream escape from my mouth, and no one Addie saw what I was screaming at and screamed along. My body was shaking like crazy, and Addie the stairs. I got up, trying to walk straight, but couldn't. There was more blood falling from above us, but no body. I followed her up the stairs, and we both ran to the first room we saw. Who still hadn't moved. He was walking very slowly to him while Addie I was screaming for him to move, but he didn't. Max slowly moved his axe up to Noah's neck, and just like that, and I got out of our corner and went to Noah. He had blood all over him and was dead. No, she has to she escapes somehow, and he's about to kill her, but yeah. general.
I'd like to say this is not real, right? You
Yeah.
do not experience. Very rapid. Last but not least, correct? Sheesh.
I thought it was too scary.
My man, is yours as scary?
No, I thought Cystrus was too of the universe. Night was no different. Sparkling jewels of red, blue, and yellow were seen in the dark treasured creation. Powerful and ancient, he created everything. Rock. He decided to try an idea that he had thought about, life. A horrible being with legs protruding out of would-be eye sockets and two heads sticking out of would-be ears. Again, he tried. He carefully and precisely crafted a perfect beast and let it roam the barren earth. He tried to make some more animals, each being more diverse and intriguing. He managed to color animals green or red or any other color, and he gave teeth and venom into some other creatures. He finally stepped back into the edge of space to see his creations. Wondrous pastures full of green grass, oceans filled with blue water and teeming with life, the soft cotton-like clouds that cast shadows on earth. He then thought about Earth, never wanting to be destroyed by anything, or for his precious animals to suddenly die by the hands of themselves. But he thought about it for a moment and decided to make shepherds or guardians. 3, mind you, not more, not less. He drew inspiration from himself, a being that resembled no other creature, 2 legs instead of 4. Carefully, he molded the sand into a structure similar to himself, then touched it and set it on earth. He created another 2, and they gained their own unique power from him. He thought they were perfect, but he thought wrong. After hundreds of thousands of years, he oversaw an event that doubted the creation of his perfect figures. One day, a plan long in the making was finally put to action. This plan was concocted by the first and second eldest of the 3. This plan forced the 3rd figure that was created to surrender and then be exterminated. Yeah, pretty much. It's not the whole story, but just the introduction.
Question. What is this all about? What is the story all about?
About fantasy.
This third creation, though, that you said, I do have a question.